Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But today is the Friday, the 28th of March 2025, the last Friday of the holy month of Ramadan. I hope all of your fasts have been going well and that this month has been as blessed for all of you as it has been for all of us here as well. Our lineup today includes the report by the US government agency that recommends sanctions against India's intelligence agency RAW. This is the first time that any report has suggested that intelligence agency of India be sanctioned. Will that happen or not? That is another question altogether. But the fact that this has happened, just the statement is a very strong indication of all that has been happening from the Indian side in Pakistan, in the region, across the 7 seas, is now a reality that is also being accepted by the West. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan's war against terror. The incidents continue, whether it be in Balochistan, whether it be in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Our security forces resolve continues to be strong enough, but there is a very strong terrorist element that is emanating from across the borders, whether it's from one side or the other side. And the fact that is that the Pakistan's economic revival, Pakistan's economic stability is not being accepted or digested by some players in the region, and that is why we see this uptick that is happening. We will understand the different modalities around it in this second segment, and finally we'll be talking about the illegal foreigners that are leaving Pakistan, and 4 days are now left for the illegal foreigners and Afghan citizen card holders to leave Pakistan as well. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin our first segment, and that concerns the agent's report from the US government that recommends sanctions against India's intelligence agency RAW. We've been joined by 2 very interesting guests to discuss this segment. My first guest on my right is Dr. Syed Aleem Gillani. He's an international relations expert. He joins us after quite a bit of a hiatus. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Our second guest is Major General retired Zahid Namood Saab, a regular and one of our best analysts here on PTV. Well, thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. We'll begin with you, Aleem. Aleem, this report that the USCIRF has released is a very strong worded document. Talks about the involvement of the Modi government and RAW in the killing of 6 separatists. Nothing new there, but the fact that a US government agency takes out a report is proof enough of a shift in the Western strategy vis-a-vis Indian terrorism. What's your take on that?
Thank you for having me. The issue that we are discussing has a significant importance. The one which has not only the importance for the region, but it has strategic implications for international human rights violations and the regional stability also. It is not a new kind of a thing in its happening, but the way it has been acknowledged globally for the first time, and the recent reports, the article published in BBC, which highlighted that how the US agency is going to ban or sanction or targeted sanctions on India's external agency, that is RAW. Their past, and if you look in the recent past, they have committed open and blatant atrocities across the globe. Be it the Canada, be it the United States of America, we have seen how they have tried their level best to neutralize anyone who is bypassing their trajectory. On one part, they have a pretext of being a secular democracy of the world. On the second part, their actions are completely in direct contradiction with whatever they are saying. So I believe for the first time the realization is at an international level, and as an international relation analyst, I believe that in today's world, the elements of power are no more limited to military and economy. It also includes your moral legitimacy. If your moral legitimacy is ruptured, it means that you are not going to be any power in the region that India is perceiving to be in that region, and they are using maximum benefit of the US convergence of interest with them, of encircling China and all that. So time will tell. Definitely, you rightly pointed out that whether these sanctions will actually have some pragmatic way out or not, but till this time, this agency is an advisory role, and they always take this religious freedom very seriously across the globe.
But it is a recommendation again, Aleem, at the end of the day, it is a recommendation. We don't know whether it will be accepted by the US government or translated into some kind of an actual sanction. But the fact is that the recommendation of the sanction, that too of the Indian intelligence agency, is a very strong statement in itself. General Saab, this ban on RAW when we look at the doings of the Indian intelligence agency, whether it be in Pakistan, whether it be in the US, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and the list goes on. Nothing is secret from the Five Eyes, you know, the main intelligence agencies across the world. And they have already discussed that in the past, and we have already talked about this topic. But the timing of it all, you know, is very important. There's a new government in place in the US. It wants to take strong measures. It wants to portray itself as somebody who, as a government that wants to do right. Is this a step in the right direction for the US government? Whether a sanction happens or not, will this have implications on India or the Indian intelligence agency vis-a-vis its acceptance and moral legitimacy, as Aleem pointed out?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Omar, thank you very much for having me. Speaking about morality and India and Modi, so I have all my fingers crossed. So let's not get into this debate, because the morality, we are not seeing this morality in the Gaza conflict also, whatever is happening in Kashmir, even the United States of America, it will depend upon their interest, and it will depend upon the US approach to this report. Sometimes if they are serious about the violations which are happening in India, because now it's very clear, every individual on this universe is very clear about the application, Indian application. India has become a deep state, and transnational terrorism is kind of tool they are using, whether it is in Canada or United States, Australia, UK, and Pakistan is a common, they have done it in the region also, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all over. So this is their political tool now, which they are using extensively, and everybody knows it. I was talking about the United States. Now it depends upon them that whether they want to act on this, taking it very seriously, because it's a government entity report, and this is basically recommendation for the president, this is the recommendation for the Secretary of State, and this is the recommendation for the all the congressmen for the lawmaking on this aspect. Or they want to keep it as a arm twisting tool. So they will be using, because this report we have been seeing this report since 2020. So every year they come out with the report, and then but this timings at this moment are extremely particular, because President Trump is a new kind of the application is little different from whatever was happening in the past. So considering the unpredictability which is attached with President Trump, we might see that there are some actions.
Okay.
But Pakistan can use it very well, considering the dossiers which we are providing to the world, being the victim. So this is something is coming from the United States, and that too from a government agency. So it's not a personal agenda or a politics involved. Although Indians will say that this is a politically motivated report, but certainly it is not. It is based on the facts. It is based on the events happening inside India and the application of law outside India, whether it's the Gurpwant Singh in United States or Nijar Singh's murder in Canada, or whatever happening inside, and a lot of lynching and minorities, the way and the different acts which the government of. So this is a systematic application by the government of India, using the law as their tool, and this is being monitored by the highest levels in India, that is Modi and Amit Shah and people like that. So serious minds are working on it and using this policy too.
All right. Aleem, the report also describes the treatment of religious minorities in India in the year 2024. Nothing new there as well. We all know how the biggest religious minority in India, the Muslims, are being treated. We know how the Sikhs are being treated. We know how the Dalits are being treated. We know what's happening in Manipur. We know what's happening in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But the fact is, when a US agency talks about this, it gives it a lot of credence, and it gives us a lot of legitimacy as far as taking action on such issues is concerned. Will other agencies across the world, other governments follow suit in your point of view? Is this going to have an effect on Indian diplomacy and Indian relations?
As you rightly pointed out, for the first time, there is a realization on the international community part. They've realized that India is going in this direction, that they are not showing compliance to any instructions, any global norm, be it their democratic understanding, be it anything else. But I want you to draw your attention toward last year's Narendra Modi statement when he called Muslims infiltrators. They called infiltrators with many kids. And they use that phrase.
They'll enforce Sharia laws. I mean,
Sharia laws.
in fact, I mean, statements like this, they make no sense.
Then what about what happened in Karnataka, the hijab controversy? It has been deliberately targeted against the Muslim majority. You know, they have not iota of respect left for any other minority, be it the Muslims. Just imagine how the RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and the link between BJP and then the policy itself is reflected. The most disastrous fact is there are segments in the countries, but it can never be adopted as a national policy. For the first time, this report highlighted that religious freedom has been badly curtailed in India, and their so-called pretext of secular democracy is gone. And I want to relate it to our realm also. There are two schools of thought. One is inclusivist school of thought, and the other one is exclusivist school of thought. Right now, the Indians adopted exclusivist school of thought, where they believe whosoever is different from them, they have no right to live in India, exit India, or follow whatever they are saying it. So I believe this kind of treatment for such a so-called democracy, it's kind of a fun, I always used to call it, when they call themselves a democracy, because their
And they call themselves a pluralistic country as well.
Yes, a diversely pluralistic country. That pluralism is nowhere to be found in their, in their institutions, in their people, in their leadership, and that is depicted and noticed by the international independent actors. This is another important point that I want to highlight is there is a dichotomy between perception and perspective. We are not giving here the perception. We are talking about the perspective that has been cited with the facts and figures.
True.
So this
All
is what
right. General Saab, the report claims that authorities in India continue to misuse relevant laws such as terrorism aid and financing. It includes the anti-terrorism law UAPA, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act to arrest civil society organizations, members of minority groups, human rights activists and journalists who report on freedom of speech. The report also recommends to the US government to examine under the Arms Control Act whether the sale of weapons such as the MQ-9B drone to India will further worsen the situation of religious freedom there. These two statements is something that we have talked about in previous shows as well, how the arms supply to India is creating an imbalance, then how the different laws that are prevalent in India for the minorities in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir also add to the misery of the people. But now that the US government agency states this, what do you expect as an action, or whether there is an action or not? What is the resultant achievement that this statement has made vis-a-vis the realities that the Indian government represents?
Omar, this statement is important in a way that, this is showing us a triangle. So it's the state of India, the government, policy makers, then the the intelligence agency, and the military. So this is a triangle. This is a company which is, who are making the policy, and then they are implementing the policy. So this is directly related. There are, more than 700,000 troops deployed in Kashmir. So straight away,
Indian-held Kashmir.
Indian-held Kashmir. All right. So they are deployed there. So it is the direct application, direct confrontation, and direct use of the military force against whom? Muslims, minority. So we have no doubt. Whatever happened in 1971 in Bangladesh against the Muslims, creation of the Mukti Bani, whatever happened in Sri Lanka with Tamils. So we find India. Again, the Indian military officers, serving military and police officers are being used by RAW in the acts of terror. Look at the guy who was involved in Yadav,
Yes.
Indian agent,
Vikas Yadav.
Vikas Yadav, sorry. Vikas Yadav is a serving Central Police Reserve officer. Kulbhushan, we have the Kulbhushan here.
We have another Yadav.
He's a serving, so all the Yadavs, coming from India.
It's a coincidence
He's a serving
two
naval
Yadavs.
officers. Then in 2020, if I'm not wrong, or 19, there were naval officers who were involved in Qatar, who were held, and now after a lot of negotiations, they were able to get 6 out of 7. They got released, but still one is there who has been sentenced capital punishment. So these are the military officers being used by RAW in the acts of terrorists. And mostly these people are being used against the minorities who are challenging the India. Look, Omar, we have a challenge as a state, and whole international community has a challenge confronting a new mindset. That is a Hindutva mindset, a Modi, Amit Shah, this Dovals. So these are the phenomenons. And they're only the concept of Akhand Bharat and persecution
Which has
of all
such a
the
lot
minorities.
of parallels or resemblance to the greater Israel also.
Yes,
That,
so they're on the similar lines, the application. So that's how this connection between the arms sales to India, using their military to pursue their political objectives, acting as a deep state, you know. So these are the serious concerns. But again, $1 million question is how United States government is going to take this. But at least now the whole world is clear that these voices are coming from all over, all parts of the world. It's not only the Pakistan who might be doing it because of the political motives, but these, United States government agency, what political motives they will have.
But you know, Jansa, what I'm really glad about is that their dirty linen is out in the public.
Yes.
The Indian dirty linen is finally out in the public for everybody to see and decipher. And this is just one part of what India has been doing. You know, it is so sad that a country that could have worked for peace, harmony, could have thwarted out issues with Pakistan. So many times you have asked them, let's come to the table for talks, let's talk the occupied Jammu and Kashmir issue together, and let's find a solution that could that could benefit the people of the region. It has never wanted to do that because it wants to, you know, have that hegemonic presence in the region. But look at how it is backfiring here. Aleem, the US Justice Department has accused RAW and one of its agents, Vikas Yadav, that General Sahab pointed to, of unsuccessfully attempting to assassinate a US citizen and Sikh leader in 2023. Now, this report is different from the report of this agency as well, but it comes in the backdrop. You know, the more or less, the timing is also very near to one another. Does this also reinforce the fact that the US's strategy vis-a-vis the Indian intelligence paradigm and its inefficacies is also changing, and it is highlighting, it wants to highlight the bad that it is doing, and maybe this could lead to a change in strategy? My question is, will it lead to a change in strategy as far as the Indian intelligence maneuvering is concerned?
Omar, before responding to your question, I want to take lead from what General Sir was saying. Right now, how the way the situation has been unfolding in the region is that America is going to take it to some level. Why? Because Americans have the idea called American exceptionalism. The idea that America has a core responsibility to promote liberty and democracy across the globe. And once such kind of things are being recorded on the international forums, that they have been repeatedly violating the international norms, sending the raw agents there, assassinating the desired targets, neutralizing them without any, calculating the efficacy and the repercussions of their actions. I believe there will be a change in the strategy because the world is no more a place where you can do such kind of things. You have seen the diplomatic standoff between Canada and India in the recent past.
Yes.
Just because of this fact that I am repeatedly saying we are not sharing here the perception or a perspective. We are only relying on the real facts and figures that are the tangibles. Now it's no more that it is a covert operation. I believe agencies do some kind of covert operations. But to what extent Gulbhushan Yadav was arrested from the Pakistan? Then, as General Sahab pointed out, there are throng of events on which we have provided tangible evidence to
India's involvement.
India's involvement. What happened recently in Balochistan, and nobody is, India cannot run away from this big responsibility on their part. So I believe that there will be a change in their strategy, seeing all these chronological events in the order.
All right, General Sahab, let's talk about the Indian reaction. The Indian External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal says in a statement that the US CIRF's continued attempts to misrepresent isolated incidents and defame India's composite culture reflects that it is not a matter of genuine concern about religious freedom, but it is being done under a deliberate agenda. So there are three words that I take out from him. India's composite culture, deliberate agenda, misrepresenting isolated incidents.
you know, I think it would have been better if they would have also tell the world that whose agenda is this?
Yes.
Who is behind this? It is Trump.
True.
So it can be Trump's agenda because it's a US agency. This is a Congress-made agency, all right. They are supposed to be making the report for the President of United States of America. Either it is his agenda or either it is, I mean, the Secretary of State's agenda. Mark Rubio is responsible, or the Congress itself. So I think this can be, if this is their agenda, then it has a serious repercussions for India. They should get ready for something is coming very heavy on this. You know, Indians are very fond of denying things. Against, I can give you example how they're becoming fond of denying things. Once they have seen that they cannot defeat Pakistan in our context, in the conventional domains, so they have gone to the hybrid application. Why the hybrid application? Because the center of gravity of this hybrid application is lying in the plausible deniability of the events and actions which they are taking. So this is their, I mean, kind of a policy. So this is their charade phase, and this is their charade. And this is any government for that matter against whom this report would have been published, they would have taken the same stance as is politically motivated without any, you know. But they are quoting the real incidents. If they're talking about the Vikas Yadav, so there's he has been implicated as a co-conspirator in the plan for murder of the Gurpant Singh in. So it is the United States jury, I mean, this is a court decision. They have implicated Amit Shah in this, that he was heading this whole operation. They have arrested a guy, Nickel, with the name of Nickel, who was brought from the Czech Republic. He was in the custody of United States. Now I've heard that they have brought him back from the United States after some backdoor, you know, diplomacy. So that Vikas, he was helping, he was working on the orders of Vikas Yadav. They had paid $100,000. They were supposed to be paying $100,000, out of which $15,000 were already paid in 2023 to the party who was supposed to be killing. So these are the facts. Kulbhushan Yadav is a living fact. He's in front of us. So these are not only even, there are a lot of, I mean, whatever is happening with the minorities of India, everybody knows it. A lot of cases of lynching, a lot of cases of, you know, cow slaughtering incidents, killing of the innocent people. Whatever is happening in Manipur, that is evident. And Kashmir. So these are not, I mean,
changing the entire cultural identity of people in Kashmir.
And as already I've said it, this is being done systematically under Modi's regime, and they have a complete plan against the minority. What is Citizen Act? So this has made the Muslims of India stateless. All those Muslims, you know, you're making the one major, I mean, one big minority in your country stateless. So these are their laws, then Anti-Terrorism Act. They have come out with those acts, and mostly this was applied on the Muslims and the Christians. What about the report on the hate speech in India? So there is a 74%, if I'm not wrong, 74% increase in 2024. Look at the speeches of the Prime Minister during the election campaign. So very clearly, these things are very clear to the world. You can make fool all the people for a very small time, but not all
everybody all the time.
All the time.
Exactly. Aleem, the report suggests that India be placed as we call a country of concern, you know, and the reaction from India says, by S. Jaiswal, he says the US agency that talks about it needs to be placed in institutions of concern. And he adds, I mean, something that you pointed out, he said, we don't expect the US CIRF to understand India's system of pluralism or the concept of harmony and coexistence of religious communities. I mean, I would like to laugh so hard when I read a statement like this, but I'd like your take.
Omar, if you relate it with what is happening in the current scenario, for instance, if Chinese says that they have a harmonious world and peaceful world concept of coexistence, their actions are supporting it.
Of course.
In case of India, they say something else and they do completely contradictory to their image. For instance, for the first time, their country has been considered to be placed in that list, as you rightly pointed out. The criteria is when you are quelling the, you know, the movements by using your power always, and you are suppressing the even the media personnel who is pointing out and criticizing the government policies, definitely the world is not blind or deaf. Obviously, I understand due to the convergence of interest, probably they are turned deaf ear to whatever is coming from India. But it will not go in the long, it will take a much of a time and energy for Indians to found another agenda. As you rightly pointed out, once we arrest Gulbhushan, they bring up with another narrative. Once they were considered responsible for Canadian attack, they said that agent was rogue. Every time they create a pretext to defend, and now it is that much visible, even a class 1 grade kid can identify what extent they are blatantly violating this international norms. So to cut long story short, the reason is the world is no more a place where you can live in this arbitrary mode. You take decisions and you try to justify whatever is. And I would like to point out, international relations are always influenced by realism. But the Indian side is following realpolitik, which is a German word, the exaggerated form of it. Every way is the right way when it comes to Indian national interest.
Every way is the right way when it comes to Indian national interest. Rights advocates point towards rising hate speech in India. They point towards a citizenship law the UN calls fundamentally discriminatory. The United Nations calls it fundamentally discriminatory. An anti-conversion legislation that critics say challenges the freedom of belief, the revocation of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir special status, Article 370, 35A, demolition of properties that are owned by Muslims. And I mean, we can go on, and I think you can add so many things to that list as well. Who is India fooling?
I think biggest victims and that facade of secularism that is already gone. Unfortunately, because of the geopolitical environment in the region and their place as a watchdog in the Indo-Pacific strategy, that is giving them a little leverages by the international pressures, especially the countries which matter. So they are taking full advantage of that. So it's very clear that this Hindutva government, this Hindutva mindset, they have declared that Hindustan or India is only for the Hindus,
yes.
And that's it. So there's no other. I mean, they want the regional countries also as a pliant state to them, falling to their policies and negativity all over, which is coming from India. And the only challenging country in this region is the Pakistan, So they have adopted this hybrid, we have already spoken. But Indian application is very much clear. Now it depends upon the people of India, how they react to it, to be very honest, especially the minorities. They have very serious challenges in the Manipur area and the Naxalites movements. Then the Sikhs are, once again, those voices are there. And Kashmir is a genocidal war is already there in Kashmir. So it depends upon the people of, but to be very honest, we must make, being a Pakistani, I would urge my government to build on these things, to be very honest. Now, this is not a time to talk, with a lot of manners in the diplomacy. Now, we will have to go with the aggressive diplomatic maneuver, and we should not let die down these things. Since 2020, we are having these things. Now, because we are into the war. They have declared a complete war against Pakistan in the form of hybrid, and we should regain the deterrence.
Okay.
Pakistan need to regain the deterrence in all aspects.
All right, all right. Thank you so very much, Aleem, to have come to the studios, and I hope to see more of you in the coming days. And there's lots to discuss as far as international politics or real politics is concerned, as you pointed out, and so much change that is happening across the world, and that needs to be highlighted. Thank you very much, Aleem, to have joined us. We will be back after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan's war against terror. Again, between the 26th and the 27th of March, 11 Khalid were killed by the security forces in 4 separate regiments in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa incident. Now, this happens also in the wake of other incidents that have happened in Balochistan as well. Then we had our special envoy, Mr. Sadiq, who was in Afghanistan as well, to sort out issues with the Afghan interim government. The Parliamentary Committee on National Security also whose meeting was held recently, reiterated the nation's resolve to eradicate terrorism in all its forms and manifestations from Pakistan. Terrorism in all its forms and manifestations is rearing its ugly head in 2 provinces, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. A very dangerous narrative by these terrorist elements that have the backing of external powers is being perpetrated within these regions, and it is a war that has different dimension. It's a hybrid war that is being fought by our armed forces in these two regions against the mindset of the outfits, against the actions of these outfits. We've seen what happened with Jafar Express. We've seen so many other incidents that have happened of late. And the country, whether it be the government or our armed forces, are working in tandem in order to thwart these elements once and for all, so that they can no longer rear their ugly head. It's a long and arduous process because it has different dimensions to it. To talk about these different dimensions, we continue to be joined by Major General Retired Zahid Mahmood. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. I'll begin with the 11 the terrorists that were sent to hell. In fact, recently in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, let's begin with the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, North Waziristan, and Miran Shah, and in Dera Ismail Khan. 4 incidents happen in which 11 Khawarij are sent to hell. This is just one of the incidents. We have talked in the past on many such incidents that have been happening, and the different statistics that have also come out of every month in getting an increase of such incidents, and the civilian casualties are increasing. The casualties from our forces, our defenders, is also increasing. What is the basic modality of the terrorist outfits that are behind such incidents?
Thank you very much, Omar. As far as the modalities are concerned, this is the kind of a guerrilla warfare, you can say, hit and run tactics is being adopted, and primarily their purpose is to create fear amongst the local citizens, so they lose hope in the state apparatus, and they lose hope in their own protection and security, So this is kind of and secondly, to attract the international, focus on that. And then there are elements, there are powers behind this whole application who are from outside, who have their design against Pakistan, So this is fitting into their designs. We must understand, you have spoken about the hybrid war, the application of hybrid war, but the response of this hybrid war has to come from the entire nation, because military is one aspect of the response. So hybrid is in the domain of the diplomacy, in the domain of information, military, economy, finance, lawfare, intelligence. So there is a whole spectrum of this threat. So once the spectrum is such large, there are so many elements involved in this. So the response has to come from all those sides which are supposed to be defending the motherland in all its in totality. So till the time we will not apply the whole of a nation approach, we are not going to fight this. Now coming back to this military application, so there are a lot of foot soldiers now available to them, especially the TTP, because they have the support of TTP is already there, and now there is people from the Afghan Taliban also who are available to these people, because there is no economic activity going on, there is no rebuilding of Afghanistan taking place, no economic application. Still, Afghan
but General Sahib, isn't this a responsibility of the Afghan interim government to stabilize itself, to improve with the humanitarian situation, to get rid of all these terrorist outfits? Why? Pakistan has time and again highlighted that. Sadiq Khan was recently in Afghanistan as well. He talked about bilateral cooperation with Afghanistan. We want to work with Afghanistan. We want to see it stabilize itself. But with so many terrorist outfits that are creating havoc in different regions, and particularly TTP and Al-Qaeda in Pakistan as well, ISIK, we've heard 1 or 2 incidents. Why doesn't it comply? Why doesn't it do the needful? Is it afraid of these terrorist outfits? Is it using them to its own advantage? I'd really like your point of view on that.
Omar, 2 interesting questions you have asked today, 2 different and interesting equations you tried to establish. Initially, you were talking, in the first part of your program, you were talking about morality and India.
Yes,
And now you're talking about responsibility and Afghanistan interim setup. So these are, again, tangent. They are at tangents. Responsible statecraft, responsibility of a state, or responsible governments are you will see these responsibilities taken over by those. If the government has come through some democratic or some serious political process. Look, we have to understand that we have a government which is a byproduct of the war. So I personally feel that they have a feeling as if they have nothing to lose. So they're responsible to whom? If there is a government in Pakistan, or for that matter in any organized country, so they're responsible to the people of that country. I don't think so that Afghan national government is taking that responsibility as being responsible for the people of Afghanistan. It is not an all-inclusive government. Many a times we speak about the Doha Accord, and we only restrict ourselves to one part of that Doha Accord, which is related to the use of the Afghan soil for terrorism. But there are many other parts also. There are around 4 or 5 parts of that agreement. And one is the all-inclusive government in Afghanistan, where the Afghan dialogue was supposed to be. If you remember, Abdullah was heading that from the other side, a 21 members delegation. They were supposed to have, they've had few meetings, and later on that's no more there. So it's not an all-inclusive, full representative government sitting in Kabul who are really serious. As of now, they're trying to protect their own legitimacy. No country in the world is still recognizing them, except the countries who want to use them as their proxies, countries like India. If you remember in 2021, when this government was being established, it was India who were opposing them in the Security Council. And they were, very prominently, they were at the forefront, and they were asking the whole world, please don't recognize these Taliban. And later on, maybe 3-4 months down the lines, once they came to know that now this is the de facto government, so the de jure is gone kind of a stuff. So they are working with them, using them as a proxy. So what I wanted to bring out was that they cannot take that responsibility in that way. There's no economic activity going on. There's no, government functioning. So these people, these Khawarij, these soldiers are available to them. So a lot of foot soldiers, and mid-tier, upper-tier leadership is in Afghanistan. Top leadership is sitting in the West, and they're using these innocent people against Pakistan, and they have, they're trying to create this environment. But again, I would say, Omar, I'm very confident the Pakistan military has the capacity, has the capability, and will. They have the will to fight these, and they'll be able to fight this. I can guarantee you, inshallah, one day you will see that all this phenomena is controlled. But as far as the terrorist is concerned, now for the terrorism, how to fight the terrorism, extremism, radicalization, subversion which is taking place. That's where our political leadership will have to own this war. I'm sure now people are very serious about it. A lot of meetings are happening, Prime Minister, Chief Minister, especially this complete team has to work together in a unified
And there should be a unified consensus of all political parties, whether you are in the government or in the opposition, to thwart this out. This is what happened in 2014, after what happened at the APS. All the political parties got together, irrespective of their differences, and thwarted out a common strategy. This needs to be done now as well. I think it's very important for that political consensus.
Omar, if quickly allow me to say, look, people of Pakistan now must observe keenly. Number one, why I say this. Number one, we are in the war. The war is on. Let's not talk about that we have the danger of this and all that. The war is on. Application is on. Nation has to fight this war. This is the second conclusion. No one individually or the political party or the some institution at their own, they can fight this. Whole of a nation approach has to be applied. And anyone, maybe from the political circles or from any part of any entity of Pakistan or from outside, who will try to scuttle the application, he is not sincere and loyal to Pakistan.
Agreed, 100%, 100%. Now let's go to Balochistan. I feel that although the strategy, the application of creating terrorism or enhancing terrorism in KP and Balochistan is similar, but there are certain differences in the strategic application of those methodologies that are used in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. I refer to Balochistan where 3 people, including a leading oncologist, were killed, 21 injured in a bomb blast on Thursday. Then at least 14 people also killed, including these 3, in separate attacks across Balochistan just in the last 24 hours, whether it be Turbat, whether it be Gwadar, and whether it be Mastung. BLA is the most prominent of these terrorist outfits. But its strategy is a bit different from that of the TTP or other such outfits that are operating in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, despite the fact that there is a nexus between these outfits as well. Should we use different strategies to counter BLA or TTP, or should the strategies remain the same?
Umar, accept the military application by the enemies, that is the collaboration of TTP and BLA and all that, because they all are now operating under one umbrella, and there is a complete big state. India is standing behind the whole strategy, thought, operational and logistics supports is coming from India, and they're claiming it very pronouncedly that look, we are behind.
You remember the statements on Balochistan that emanated in the last few years?
So we have no doubt in our mind, and the international community has no doubt in the mind, but everybody is using it according to their own, interests. But that state is behind that, and unfortunately this umbrella of collaboration in the kinetic application is being provided by the Afghan National Interim Setup. Not maybe all, but there are majority is supporting them, because that setup has own problems also. They're kind of individuals. So I can't say that Kabul has a complete control on the policy making or complete control on Afghanistan itself, So this is coming from there. But there is a major difference between whatever is between the application in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. Look, in Balochistan, there are the politics because of the deprivation, the politics. Then there are social movements. So Taliban had lost the political face. Taliban's KPK have already lost the charade ideology which they were fighting for the religion, and so they don't have that moral or political support, and even it is the government which is behind them. Outside support is only from primarily from India and Kabul. But in Balochistan, it is Kabul, India, and few more characters and players they are employing because of the CPEC and our collaboration with the China. Then, unfortunately, the politics in all those who are in power in Balochistan, there is a political, issues because of the polarization. They're also talking about the deprivations and whatever socio-economic development in Balochistan. The social disruptive movements like Marang Lango and all those, they're also, framing their policy around that. And the friction, those guys who have picked up the arms, so they're also, talking about this. So there is a kind of a, you will find that these BLA, BRA, this kinetic is finding some political support from these social disruptive movements, only from the leadership. Now there are many people in these movements who are unwittingly supporting this cause, and they're kind of providing support to this military, and now they are already playing in the hands of the enemy, So there's no doubt that this leadership has the strong connection with the proxy sponsor state, the political leaders. So this is a complex situation in Balochistan. There are other characters, other countries also who have their interests.
That is so true. And
so this strategy has to be wholesome in all domains, and parallel we have to adopt this strategy.
I agree with you. Last question. We're a bit short of time. I would have loved to have a few more. But Pakistan welcomes the US acknowledgement of the threat posed by the TTP to world peace and security. This was said by the weekly news briefing by our Foreign Office spokesperson yesterday. He said there is no hiatus in Pakistan-US cooperation on counter-terrorism, and it will continue in the future. To add to that, our Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi says terrorism is an international issue and the global community needs to work together to combat it, while talking to the acting US Ambassador Natalie Baker in Islamabad yesterday as well. Both sides also discussed to enhance mutual cooperation in the field of counter-terrorism efforts, and it was agreed to hold a counter-terrorism dialogue in June this year, which is just a couple of months down the lane. Pakistan-US joint counter-terrorism operations. How important does this operation become in the wake of all that Pakistan is encountering? Secondly, a counter-terrorism dialogue that will be happening in a couple of months' time. How should Pakistan use it to its advantage to ensure that terrorism, whether it be in the form of social strategies or terrorism strategies, does not rear its ugly head again?
Omar, look, we need to understand that the political and military agenda of United States was not met in Afghanistan. They were unable to achieve their political as well as military objectives. 2 decades. So ultimately we are standing at position which we were having in 1999 or 2000. So that if Americans are interested to complete that whatever they wanted to achieve, they will have to collaborate with Pakistan, because this is bringing bad name to United States of America. $7 billion
worth of equipment, machinery.
So
left.
people in this part of the world now doubt America that this was not a withdrawal by ANA or some faction of African faction or some Houthis or some guerrillas are withdrawing. This was a NATO withdrawal. This was the United States of American military was withdrawing from Afghanistan. So this was supposed to be a very good withdrawal, a comprehensive withdrawal. So unfortunately that couldn't take place. Now people in this part of the world doubt sometimes, that why it wasn't. So United States have to address. Luckily that President Trump has realized this and he has recognized. So he's talking about the most embarrassing situation and most embarrassed withdrawal from Kabul. Then handing over of that terrorist Fakir to United States, that speaks that Pakistan is still very sincere to work against the international application of this terrorism against. United States of America need to understand that this ISIS, ISKL, and then ISK and other factions which will be having their application against Russia, Central Asia, China, Pakistan. Afghanistan is the best ground available to them, best place. So these all elements are there. So there is a probability and there is very much chance of application against United States once again. So if they want to, because United States will only help you if they will have this feeling that it is their interest also.
There's a genuine concern by the US that this could have repercussions that could extend to the US, and that is why there is an interest by the US to collaborate with Pakistan in counterterrorism. And let's see what the coming months have in store as far as this counterterrorism collaboration is concerned. Thank you very much, Major General Zahid Mahmood Sahab, to have joined us, defense analyst, during the entire show. But there were two important topics in which your presence was extremely important. But thank you very much to have contributed so efficiently on that. Last story, ladies and gentlemen, before review is 4 days that are left for the illegal foreigners to leave Pakistan. The 31st of March was the deadline for legal foreigners and Afghan citizen card holders to leave Pakistan. And of course, the government has assured that no mistreatment is going to be happen in the process of it all, and it has made adequate arrangements as far as food and health facilities for those returning is concerned. The total number of returnees as we speak is standing at 880,778. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. This is also the last newsroom of the holy month of Ramadan. We will be back with an Eid special on the first day of Eid as well during the same time. I think the holy month of Ramadan is a reminder of how we need to be cohesive in our approach, how we need to stand for each other and for the Muslim Ummah and for all those that want to destabilize it, whether as a society or as a nation. This is what we need to take from this holy month, and also the compassion that it stands for. Omar, Khalid, bids you farewell from this episode of Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah very soon, maybe on Eid Day with a special. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves, loved ones, and have a great weekend and the end of Ramadan. Allah Hafiz.